Okay, let's talk test outline. Test outline. Actually, before that, let's do the day's outline. What the plan is for today. Test outline. And then questions from the IVT worksheet. IVT and squeeze. And then I've got a limit review. I guess it's a worksheet, but it's brief. You'll finish before you leave. And then you'll have time to work on the review. And then Monday I'll take questions from the review, and then Tuesday we'll test. So there's the kind of the plan for the next couple of days. Test outline. 2-day test. Again, it used to be block day, and rather than try to cut it down, and I kept cutting out more than I wanted to cut, just made it over 2 days. So the Tuesday is all limits. It was a nice break. Tuesday is all and only limits. So 12 limits from a graph. Right, that's what we did the very first day, and we also had it show up again as kind of a warm-up on one of the days. I feel pretty confident in that. You're pretty good. I guess the only tricky one are those like nested limits where there's one side, but most of them are pretty straightforward. 4 limits from equations. So that's where things get a little bit trickier, because you have to use your algebra tricks. Those are free response questions. And then multiple choice, there's 10 limit from equations that are multiple choice. And your limit from equations, here's your review sort of built into the test outline. What do you always try first when you're doing limits with equations? Substitution. Like plug it in. If you get a nice answer, good, you're done. Very rarely does that happen, because we want to force you into one of those algebra tricks. What were the 3 algebra things that you could do? Do you remember? What's that? I heard reduce. Reduce is right after you factor. So factor and reduce, sometimes that takes out the 0 over 0, and then you're able to substitute and get an answer. What were the other 2 weird things that you had to deal with? I think this is worksheet 2, if you're got your worksheet out and flipping back and looking. Yep, worksheet 2. Weird fractions. We had to multiply the top and bottom by something to make things cancel out. Well, I guess they're always canceling out, and then you get back to substitution. And then the last thing, remember the final thing that you do algebraically? What's that? You will plug in, but there's one more algebra trick we need to know, and then we try substitution again. The square root stuff. Square root, which leads to conjugates. And then after we do all that, then it's cycle back and try substitution again. For one-sided limits, again, you try substitution first. And that rarely works. And then you have to try plugging in a little more than or a little less than. Right? And you're worried about positive infinity and negative infinity for those one-sided limits. from graph, that's worksheet 1. From equations is worksheet 2. Oh, worksheet 2 and 3, because the one-sided stuff is 3. There's the outline for Tuesday's test, along with a little bit of review reminders thrown in there. Any questions on that before we talk about Wednesday's test? Anything that you see there, you're like, wait a minute, what's that about? What do we do there? What's he talking about? Okay, then for Wednesday test, I guess the easy thing would be to say everything else, but we can get a little more detailed than that. Multiple choice, 6 on continuity, 3 on IVT and squeeze. Only 3 because it's just hard to write very many equations about, a tree goes from 1 meter to 5 meters. It passes everything in between. That's IVT. And then free response. One continuity and 1 IVT. Continuity was worksheet 4. IVT and squeeze is worksheet 5. I'll tell you right now, the free response continuity, you're going to have to use the 3-step definition or the 3-step proof. Left limit equals right limit equals function value. IVT you also have to use, it's a different 3 steps, but the 3 steps of it's continuous, set up the endpoints, everything's between here and here, and then make your conclusion that yes or no on whatever the conclusion is. So I think splitting it up, I don't know, 2-day test, not great, but it's better than a squished in 1-day test. A squeezed, yes. You don't want to live the squeeze theorem where you get squished. We don't want that. So looking at the test outline, any questions on test format or even like content? Like, is there something up there that you're like, I don't remember that. What are we talking about? Yes? You get the whole class period both days, yeah. And I guess this, maybe it needs to be said, maybe not. But you'll complete Tuesday's test only on Tuesday and Wednesday's test only on Wednesday. Right? You don't get to see it, take it home, and come back and try again. There is a bonus. I don't remember which day it's on. Probably on Wednesday, just because it was already at the end of the test. Do I want to tell you what the bonus is? You're like, of course you want to tell us what the bonus is. I think I will, only because I don't think I've used this term yet this year, but it's a term you know from pre-cal, I think. So yeah, here you go. Average rate of change. Remember what the average rate of change is? It's what we used to call slope, but now that we're all fancy calculus students, we call it average rate of change. But yeah, it's the slope formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. On Thursday of next week, would you like to guess what AROC stands for? Average rate of change. Okay, then we'll call it done on that video of the test outline.